Welcome to another edition of the Harmon Solar Podcast. I'm Rob Romano, VP of Sales and Marketing at Harmon Solar, alongside Ben Walschlager. You guys also know him as Mr. Everything. Ben, how are you doing?
Good.
Good.
Belly is full, ready to go.
Belly is full. You had your barbecued pizza.
That was good.
You gained about 3 pounds. Sure. You didn't make a mess on your shirt, so I'm good.
That I know.
So today we're doing something a little different. Usually we come in here and we grab a topic and we talk about it and we script it up and do all this stuff. Today we're not doing that. Not today. Oh. Today we've got questions from our listeners and our viewers.
That's scary.
A lot of questions. I'm scared. I think we took the top 10 or 11 questions and we're going to go ahead and read those and try to provide some answers for you guys.
Okay.
So something a little different. And we appreciate you guys sending in questions.
Send more.
Yeah, keep them coming. We seem to be getting a lot more lately, so keep them coming and we'll do our best to get them on the air. Okay. First question. What is the biggest drawback from getting solar installed?
Good question. The biggest drawback would be not knowing what you're doing. Or
Yes.
not knowing what company you're, signing up with, because as we've mentioned many times before, it's all depending on who you're working with. So you could be working with a company that it sounds great on paper and everything's fantastic, and then they come out there and it's a horrible job, it's a nightmare, roof caves in, panels fly off. You don't see the savings that you're guaranteed and all that stuff, and you're like, oh. So it's a gamble if you're not educated.
Yeah.
So get yourself educated first to eliminate that gamble.
And I would agree. I'd say the biggest drawback is education, not being educated. And one of the bigger drawbacks, in my opinion, is we have a lot of companies in this industry that are not looking out for your best interest.
Yeah.
It's about them and how much money they can make. And that makes this industry kind of tough. We fight it every day.
Yeah.
That's one of the drawbacks of being in solar, but we're here to help kind of fight that and get that out of the way because solar is so beneficial for so many people. So good question.
Yep.
Next question. What's the number one positive for getting solar?
Number one positive for getting solar, well, it's the main reason people get solar is to save money.
Save money.
That's it.
Cut and dry.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how else you answer that.
I don't think people get solar because it looks cool on their roof.
Some people actually do.
They're like, I don't care about the savings. I just want panels. It just looks cool.
Yeah. So number one positive for getting solar. Don't turn that positive into a negative, right? Savings is positive. Don't put yourself in a bad situation. Again, because you're not educated.
Yep.
And now that positive is a negative because now you're not saving money.
Yep.
And you're stuck. All right. Next question. After it's installed, how long before we see a difference in our electric bill?
It all depends when you get your system installed. If it was installed at the beginning of January, February, you probably won't see a huge difference because your usage is low. So your utility bill is already low.
Right.
Solar production's low. So you're just not offsetting a whole lot of power that time. So, you're going to get your first bill in January, February and go, hey, this is not great. But then if you get your system installed in the, middle of summer, you might not, depending on your utility company, you might not see a great savings because you didn't have your credits built up from, February, March, April, and May to last you through that summer. You don't have that savings, built.
Right.
So it depends. So I would say you start seeing a really good, this is what I should expect to start seeing savings when you completed your first full year of what I call growing pains of solar.
Right.
You'll see a savings, the first month with your first build, depending on how you use your power, but you start to see the real picture play out that first full year.
Yeah, it's an annual proposition. You have to look at this thing every year, and that's where you really see the true savings. You will see savings on a monthly basis, obviously. It's funny, the first month you mentioned, you'll see savings the first month. I say you won't because this is what happens. Everybody gets solar and goes, now I've got solar, and they jack down their AC or they jack up their heat and they use more power. What the heck happened? Well, that's what happens.
Yeah.
You're using more power.
Or sometimes I see
Be careful of that.
See people, they'll get their first bill and they're like, what the heck? My bill is higher. I'm like, well, during your solar system install, it was during the middle of like a billing cycle.
Right.
So when you get your first bill, you only had 2 days worth of solar on that bill.
Yeah.
So you're not really seeing a savings in there. You have to wait for the next billing cycle to,
exactly.
Wait for things to play out.
Yeah. So don't get solar, and then the first bill you're calling the company going, hey, what's going on? Again, it takes time. You have to go through some billing cycles.
Again, I explain this to all customers as well. Like, there's growing pains for it.
Okay, next question. Appreciate the question. So next question. If I get solar and absolutely hate it, what's the protocol for getting it removed? Or is it my problem once it's installed?
It's kind of your problem. The nicest way to say it is it's your problem, because you had the contract, you signed it, it's a legally binding thing.
Right.
Will companies remove your system? Sure. Will they remove it for free? Nope. So you paid for your system, and now you're paying for them to remove it.
Right. I mean, that's the bottom line.
And now you're way underwater.
And if you have a loan for it, that loan doesn't just go away. You keep paying it. So if you say, well, I'm just not going to use this, well, good luck. Turn it off. You're still paying the loan payment for it. So no, make sure you, again, this is why you get educated. This is why you take time to make this decision and don't do it on a whim. Make sure you know what you're getting into as far as your loan, your system, everything, and that kind of money you expect to save.
It's kind of like buying a house, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I bought the house. I got the keys. I signed all the paperwork. You know, a month later you go, you know, I don't want it anymore.
Yeah, too late.
Like, you know, you bought it.
Right. So again, really good question. All right. Next question. Will the system mess up my roof in the long term? Does it affect the future inspection or selling of our home?
Well, hopefully not. Again, depending on the company that you go with, you know, we don't want to obviously have the system fly off or cave in or anything like that. So we will go out there and do penetrations on the roof. But as far as messing up your roof, you know, if it's us, obviously not. But, you know, depending on who you go with and how they do their install. So take a look at reviews, ask questions, ask neighbors, you know, ask around the neighborhood how their install went, things like that.
Right.
So you can get an educated assumption of what you're getting into.
Don't be afraid to ask how do they install it? Because there's different companies that do it different ways. They might say, oh, we're not going to mess your roof up. What we're going to do is we're going to put tile hooks and we're not even going to drill in the house. Yeah, and those things are kites on tile hooks, and I can show you pictures of systems with tile hooks and what happened to the panels. They just took off in a microburst.
They're in someone's backyard.
Right. So ask the question about how they install. We've gone over it in our podcast. We talk about how we install. Go listen to our roofing podcast. It gets into detail about that. So yeah, ask that question. That's really important to know because you don't want someone going up there messing up your roof.
Yeah.
And you know, as far as future inspections and selling your home, yeah, I mean, when you sell a home with solar, that system is going to be part of that inspection. Like we do, just like you have to go get a home inspection, Harmon Solar provides a solar inspection for people selling and buying homes where we'll go there, we'll do a complete inspection and you get a complete report on your system, how it's working, what it needs, if it needs anything, et cetera. So those kind of things are all part of the game now as we've evolved into a more of a solar-friendly society residentially. So yeah, it absolutely is part of that. So
there's lots of different types of inspectors out there. So obviously when you're buying a home, you say like, okay, I need an inspector for the home. But I also have a pool. Will my inspector inspect the pool as well?
Right.
Some do, some don't. I also have a solar system. Will my inspector do the home, the pool, solar system? Some do, some don't. So when you are doing those inspections, make sure that you ask your inspector, can you do all this? And if not, well, I need a company to come out here and inspect the solar system as well.
I remember 11, 12 years ago when I started, the home inspectors knew nothing about solar. And they put zero value on it because they didn't know. And we've come so far in the last 11 years. Now there's value to it. They understand what they're looking at, et cetera. So yeah, it's definitely part of it. Great question. Are there long-term costs? Is there a long-term cost associated with solar? In other words, will I be replacing expensive equipment, making this whole thing lose its appeal and losing its cost effectiveness?
Long-term costs, well, I guess it depends on how you're paying for it. So if you're doing like a 20 or 25-year loan, yes, there's a cost to you're paying off the loan, or if you're doing a lease, same thing. Cash, there's obviously you pay that up front and you're looking for a return on investment. But as far as, you know, I bought this 5 years down the road, now my panels don't work, things like that. No, that's not the goal of solar. We have warranties in place for that. That's the key. For that, you know, if your panels do decide to break or your inverters don't work anymore, there's warranties that replace that. And we do warranty claims all the time. We have a whole service department that does that. I think the other part with that was like, you know, changing technology type, you know, if the
they're more focused on the fact that am I going to have to replace this expensive technology that's up on my roof? And I think you hit on it. It's warranties.
Oh, kind of like iPhone 2 and an iPhone 10.
So the difference with solar is there's 25-year warranties on these panels, on the microinverters. You know, Tesla gives you like a 12.5-year warranty on their inverters. Everything has a warranty on it. So no, you're not going to be spending money long term. If something does go out outside of warranty, so think about how long these warranties are though. The only thing I can think of would be like a Tesla inverter that after 12.5 years could go out of warranty. Yeah, you have to replace to get it fixed. But outside of that, I mean, everything has got such a long warranty on it. You're pretty solid. You're good.
After 24 years and 11 months, if it's still working and fine and great, you've saved a lot of money, obviously, in 24 years. You know, something goes wrong in that 24th year,
you're good.
You got a warranty.
Get it fixed.
Get it fixed.
Yeah. So, all right. No, good question. I mean, it's like I get it. All right. Next question. How effective is it on different parts of the roof? Do they need to be broken up? Is my roof big enough? There's a lot of questions. Does it cause roof damage, which we've talked about already? How does it work with my electric company? So let's take that piece by piece.
Yeah.
So how effective is it on different parts of the roof?
Well,
I guess that's a north, south, east, west question.
It depends. Yeah. So south is best, followed by west, then east, then north.
Yeah.
In that order. So if you have
South
a good
gets most sun.
Yeah, if you get a good south-facing roof, then it works, it's best. And the reason behind that, well, since the Earth is round and we have the equator right here, Arizona is north of the equator. Since the equator is south of us, the sun gets most. Okay,
we've done this.
We've done this. Yeah. So yeah, south is best, followed by west. West, people asking about east and west. West is better because that's usually when your on-peak times are with utility companies.
Right.
So we want to kind of offset that higher cost.
Right.
As far as solar production goes, east and west is pretty much the same, but if we're looking at a cost benefit, then west would be better than east on that aspect.
Yeah.
Then east, and then north is not as great because again, we're the
sun's in the southern sky in the winter and over. Yeah. So it doesn't produce as well.
Yeah. So if you have a good south-facing roof, then put more panels on the south.
South is primary. Unless you're an SRP, then you want to go west.
Yeah.
Do they need to be broken up? So I would say that depends on the design of your roof.
Yeah.
Again, it depends how much space you have on the different planes and different sides. So if we can fit enough of what you need in one plane, like in the south plane, then we're good. No, we don't need to break it up. But if we have to, and maybe put more panels on the west because we can't cover enough on the south, then we're going to break it up. It all depends on your usage and how much roof space you have. It's what it's about. It's usage and roof space.
I can't tell you how many times I've looked at a roof and just went, oh, if only your house was flipped.
Right.
Because the back of your home is perfect, but it faces north and it's not that great. So we have to kind of hodgepodge it to make it work.
And this kind of goes with it. Is my roof big enough? Well, I don't know until I know what your usage looks like and I look at your roof.
Yeah, a lot of times what I tell people is if you, again, depending on your utility company, we'll just go with APS, for example. If you use 20,000 kilowatt hours, well, then we need to design a system that produces 20,000 kilowatt hours or more. So I don't know how much you use. And once I figure that out, then I can figure out, okay, well, how many panels do you need based off that usage and where are these panels going to go?
Exactly.
So we kind of go from there.
Again, there's a whole process to this, right? Which is why you have to have a salesperson asking questions versus just forcing something down your throat. As you can see in your questions, these are great questions.
It's not a one size fits all.
Right, exactly. Does it cost roof damage? We just talked about that, so we won't dread on that again. How does it work with my electric company?
Depends on electric company. Everything depends. Every one of these answers is, well, it depends. So we have a whole podcast on SRP, obviously.
Yeah, they're different.
APS, so it's going to depend. If that's why we always tell people get multiple quotes from multiple companies, because I guarantee someone's going to be telling you this is what you need, this is what you should do, things like that, and a lot of them are going to be very, very different. So,
and again, so 35,000 foot level, what you're doing is it's connected to your utility, and when you're overusing, you're pushing stuff back to the utility. When you need power, you're bringing stuff in from the utility. So the solar system is connected to the grid. So it does work in cohesion with your with your utility company. So I'm not sure if you're asking that or if you're trying to get more specific. If you're trying to get more specific, go watch our SRP podcast. You'll get an idea of how that works. We talk even about APS in there a little bit. So you can get an idea of how it works, or just give us a call and we'll explain it to you.
Yeah.
All right. Is that the last part of that? That was the last part of that question. Okay.
Next one.
We already pulled the trigger on a solar system, but we were told we would get like $16,000 back on our taxes. Turns out that's not how it works. We got a $16,000 credit on our taxes. So it worked out over a couple of years, whatever we paid in, we got back until that credit was used. Maybe touch on that topic on your podcast.
Should we flash the disclaimer?
And we have touched on this topic.
Yeah, we are not tax experts.
Right. But what you just said is the most common thing we hear with taxes. People will come into your home and tell you the government's going to cut you a $16,000 check. They are not going to do that.
Yeah.
It's a tax credit and it's based on your tax liability. Yeah. Just like you just explained and you found out over a period of years. You were able to use it, but you didn't get a check for $16,000 in the mail.
Right. A lot of companies get credits and rebates confused. A rebate and a credit are two very different things in the eyes of the IRS. So solar is a tax credit, not a rebate.
Yeah. It's simple as that.
Yeah.
I do want to bring on a CPA, but I fear having that conversation because again, we are not tax consultants, but I'd love to hear from somebody that does that for a living to give you his opinion. Not mine, not Harmon's opinion, but his opinion.
Right.
Just to kind of hear it. We might do that.
Okay.
Maybe.
It won't be a Harmon employee.
It's just
so
a touchy subject, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we just, that's not what we do.
It's one of the questions that I ask, and I think every salesperson should ask too. When I talk to customers of, how do you want to pay for this? Do you want to do cash, finance, lease? And then I go into, what is your tax liability? Do you know what it is? Do you know if you need the credit? Things like that. And a lot of times, I would say probably 9 out of 10 times, people go, huh? Well, I don't know what that means. So okay, well, you got to talk to a tax guy then to figure out what's good for you in your situation, because I don't want to sell you something that's not going to be a good situation for you.
Right. Good question. I like that question. I'm glad you asked it. And anyway. All right. Are the panels truly effective if they don't move with the sun? How do the seasons affect their efficiency?
Well, there are those big solar farms where they do, move with the sun, but those are huge.
And those are maximum efficiency because they do follow the sun.
Those are multi-billion-dollar systems. So
yeah, and they sell smaller things like that you can use residentially, but they're so expensive. It's just stupid.
We always got to look at what's cost effective. We get all kinds of requests all the time. People are like, oh, can I put a ground mount in my backyard? Can I do this? Can I do that? Like, yeah, we can. But what is your goal? Your goal is to save money, right? So we're not trying to do this as cheap as possible. Putting it up there with paper clips and gum. We're not trying to do it as expensive as possible either. We need to find a happy medium of what's going to be cost effective for you to save money. So, yeah, if they don't move, with the sun, that's fine. We're putting them on your roof in an area that it will still get a decent amount of sun.
Yeah.
So
we just talked about that, south and west,
if it's
and
facing
east.
south, it doesn't need to move a whole lot.
So we line them up based on that. We know where you're going to get the most production, and that's how this works. So, yeah, they don't need to be moving. Would that be cool? Of course it would. Would it be cost effective? Absolutely not. And the seasons, again, go look at the Solar 101 podcast. It talks about this. I think part 1 really gets into this. The seasons do affect solar production. Real quickly, 35,000-foot view. The sun is in the southern sky in the winter. Panels are sitting on your roof. They're getting sun on the south side, but they're going to get a little bit less than normal. Same on the west and east. North, they're not going to see a whole lot.
Angle of sunlight's less.
And as the sun comes up and up over into the summer, where now it's overhead, it's hitting a lot more, and you're getting a lot more light. And it's doing more on the north, especially because now the north is getting more light. So yeah, the seasons do affect how your solar system produces, which is why you see more production in certain times of the year. And also heat affects how your solar system produces because too much heat is no bueno. So go listen to Solar 101 podcast. I think it's part 1, and it goes into that in detail, and you'll get that more of a better answer than I just gave you right now.
I'm going to put you on the spot, Ralph.
No.
What's the... You can just edit this out, I guess.
Okay, what?
What's the best months for solar production?
I would say April, May, June.
There you go. Look at that. A lot of people are like, what? July, August? It's the hottest.
Too hot.
Too hot.
Way too hot.
Got to be May, June-ish.
Yeah, right now my system's producing really well.
This is the time.
Because this is the time of year. It's not hot yet, and the sun is more overhead than it's been all year, and it's producing really well. So yeah, you're right. People think it's summer. Absolutely not. It's too hot. These panels can only take so much heat. Okay, what happens if the roof needs to be redone? Well, you sell the house. What else would you do?
Move out. Well, hopefully we have that conversation beforehand. Hopefully that, or even if we don't, maybe it comes up in the audit. Because the idea is we want it to be cost effective. We don't want to go out there, install your modules, and put everything up, and you're good to go. And a couple months later, you go, "Oh, I need to redo my roof." Well, to redo your roof, we have to take the modules off, and we don't do those for free, so we have to take it off. That's a cost of that. Fix your roof, put them back on. Yeah. So if you know your roof needs to be replaced, let's talk about that before you make that purchase.
Yeah. So if your roof is in really bad shape, don't just throw solar panels on it. Yeah. That's a really bad decision.
It's a good idea to do the roofing and solar combined because you take advantage of that tax credit.
La, 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 la. We don't talk about tax credits, but yes, there is something there that the government does allow for you to do things that work with the solar system. They give you the tax credit on. Right. So yeah, real important to make sure your roof's in good condition. A lot of solar companies are going to bypass what your roof looks like because they just want to sell you solar. But that's a bad decision. If your roof needs to be replaced, get it done with the solar. What we do at Harmon is, as in our contract, you'll read that it says, if you do a re-roof with us after you've gone solar, that we'll include the R&R as part of the re-roof package. Oh. So we do that in a cost in there. So it's actually not a bad deal at all for you. Yeah. So, but again, we do that one time. just be smart about it. Don't throw a solar system on a bad roof that needs to be replaced in the next year or two. That's just dumb.
Yeah.
Get the roof redone.
Yep.
At least get where you're doing the solar redone at a minimum. We'll do that at a minimum.
Yeah.
So good question. Really good question. Okay. As a new homeowner, will my house appraise for more now that it has solar? So we kind of touched on that a little bit too. It actually, again, this is another touchy one, right?
Yeah.
Everyone will say yes. That's the standard answer in the industry.
I feel it's very case by case, though.
It is case by case because is it a lease system?
Yep.
Is it a purchase system? The short answer is it should. It should increase value. You know, it depends on a lot of scenarios. If you have a lease on your roof and it's a really bad lease, someone really took you to the cleaners and it's a bad payment, it's going to hurt your resale, period.
Yeah.
It just does because no one's going to want to buy something that's bad.
Yeah.
They're going to force you to pay it off before you sell the house.
Yeah. When I was home shopping, you know, there was a lot of homes I was looking at, and the real estate agent was like, "Oh, it has solar. Here's their bills and all that stuff." I'm like, well, let me take a look at it. No.
Right.
And there was a few cases where I looked at it and I'm like, you know, that's great that they have solar. I was taking a look at, you know, was it a cash purchase, finance, lease, or whatever? You know, there were some cases where I looked at it and like, I wouldn't, you know, this is a great house, but because of how they did their solar, I would never buy this house.
Right.
Because this was just a bad deal and I'm going to be overpaying now and, you know, things like that. And it just didn't work out. But then there's some homes I look at and like, okay, yeah, this is a lease and the monthly payment's good. They got a good deal on it. It was a good company that installed it. You know, even it wasn't Harmon. It was some other company that installed it and everything pencils out. Then, yeah, okay, I'll put an offer on this home. So it's going to be dependent on the value of the home. Sure, it might go up. But then if you're an educated buyer, you're also not just looking at, they have solar. You're looking at, well, what is the solar?
Right.
What's all entailed in it? Give me the full story so I can make an informed decision.
So that kind of gives, and will it appraise for more? Most likely, there's an industry standard, national standard now. I can't remember what the amount is. There's a value they're putting to solar now. Yeah. So yes, home appraisers are giving value to solar depending on the situation. They do look at that. So,
and if you are looking to buy a home and you have your inspection, whatever, and the solar system as far as the inspection goes checks out, but you're still wondering, should I take over these monthly payments of this lease? Is this a cash purchase? I don't really know a whole lot. Give us a call. I'll talk to you. Yeah. I'll take a look at the paperwork of the lease and go, you know what, this is actually not a bad deal. So if you're making an offer on the home, this is pretty good. Or I'll even be honest with you and go, this homeowner got screwed. So
I've had a few of my friends come to me that are buying houses with solar, and I've looked at it and I've seen 2 out of 3 of them were horrible situations, and they walked away. And good thing they did because they were about to get in a bad situation.
Yeah.
Okay. Final question.
Go ahead.
This is a long one. We debated getting solar multiple times and even had a solar guy come and give us an estimate and presentation. In the end, we decided against it because we wouldn't really save any money.
It was Ralph.
The money we'd save on our electric bill would be used to pay off the solar panels. Okay. All right. That's kind of what you want.
Yeah.
And by the end they would be paid off. Okay. They would need to be replaced. Okay. So what they're saying is the money we would have saved would have just been enough money to pay for the system. And then in the end, when I had paid it off, now the system would be worn and old and I'd have to go ahead and replace the system anyway. So it made no sense.
Okay.
Our house is smaller. And he said it makes more sense for larger homes. That's dumb. But they just need to buy more panels. So it would actually be saving any money. Okay. So this is very typical.
Yeah.
This is the solar guy that he's trying to take advantage. He wants to give you more panels. He's trying to get as many panels as he can on your house because he makes more money that way.
Right.
You wind up in a bad situation and he winds up in a great situation.
I'm just thinking it's probably, you're probably breaking even on savings.
Right. And if you have to look you have to look at 20 to 25 years. How long are you financing it for? Is it 20 years? Okay. If you're just breaking even at 20 years, not a good idea.
Not a good idea, no.
Why would you do that? You should see a break even like year 8.
Yeah.
Maybe 9. And then you're going to have a good 11 years of where you're saving money.
Yeah.
That's a good situation. So if you pay off the system in the first 8 or 9 years, the next 11 years and plus are all you saving money. That makes a lot of sense. But I've seen this where these companies go in and they sell really high and the savings is basically at year 20.
Yeah.
Dumb.
If it's done correctly and priced correctly, that's the biggest thing. Priced correctly, you will always see a savings.
Yeah.
I've never seen a scenario where done correctly, priced correctly, where you don't see a savings.
Exactly.
It doesn't make sense. There's cases in we've talked about this before where I've told people no because I've done it, I've priced it correctly, but it wasn't done correctly for their situation. You know, it was an SRP deal, and they had a finance, and there was a big tree on the west. They know I cut the tree, so yeah, in certain situations where it wasn't done correctly, so then I would say no, this doesn't work for you, or your usage is too low, or whatever.
Yeah.
But if it's done correctly and priced correctly,
it works.
It works. There's a savings.
Solar works.
Yeah.
And what do we say? It's not for everybody,
right?
But you should take a look, and this is why. All these questions are why you should take a look, and you should have good questions.
Yeah.
If a solar sales guy if his answer to everything is you just need more panels, tell him to leave.
Yeah, tell me.
Because he's just trying to get more commission out of you.
Well, if the question is, I'm planning on adding a hot tub and pool, and he says you just need more panels, in that case, I guess.
In that case, yeah. But if your savings is 20 years and he says you just need to add more panels.
Sure, yeah.
Because then you can generate more power and you can sell it back to the utility.
Are you giving us those panels for free?
Yeah. He's not.
Yeah.
He's remember, they get paid by the panel.
Yeah.
So understand that. Great question. Sounds like you had a really bad solar company trying to sell you something, and you were smart enough to see in through it, and you walked away. Good job.
Dodged a bullet.
I would love to be able to take a look at your situation and give you a real quote at a real price and see what it looks like.
Sure.
So, give us a call. That's it. Those are our questions for this podcast.
That was easy. Did I pass?
No, you did. These are good questions. These are very common questions that we see a lot of these kinds of questions. Sure. Keep bringing us questions. Give us more stuff to talk about. I know there's a ton of questions. There's a ton of hesitation on some things, but as we're getting now into the summer months, we're starting to see business really pick up. This is the time of year it always picks up. And this is where you're going to be getting visited by a lot of solar people. They're going to be calling you, knocking that door. Don't hesitate to give us a call or just send us an email or send us a question. We don't need to sell it to you, but we'll be more than happy to help answer the questions to kind of help you through the process. Yeah. We do it all the time.
Invite those people in and then call me during the presentation, and we can have a 3-way phone conversation with the sales rep, you, and me.
We've done that.
We'll see how it goes.
We can talk about the guy that you sat there with 4 other solar companies.
I think it was 6 others.
Was it 6 other solar companies? Okay, right. So, again, go look at Go look at our podcast, the Solar 101 podcast, parts 1 and 2. Really good information on there. If you want to get more specific about certain topics, go take a look at our list of podcasts. I think there's 15 or 16 of them out there now. There's some really good specific information, and we get down into it. We go into the weeds. And we give you no nonsense information, no nonsense answers. We're not going to just give you an answer to make us look good. We tell you the truth. As painful as it is sometimes, you're going to find the truth in these podcasts. Yeah. So go take a look. If you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to us. And that's this episode.
Make sure you like and follow and subscribe to all the socials and all that stuff to keep up to date with the next podcast.
Yeah, and we'll be back with something in the next couple of weeks, and we'll let you know what. I'm not sure yet. I got some ideas.
We've always got ideas.
I always have ideas. So, Ben, thanks again for joining us and helping me answer the questions. We will see everybody again soon. Thanks for joining us.
All right.